running the Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the Republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, Russia, Russian, 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 the Russians.
Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots, their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Devolution Power Hour on September 11th. Kind of a somber day, but glad you all could join us. And I'm going to start the show off by asking you all a pretty big favor, because Rumble is being Rumble right now, and it says that there's only one person watching, and I find that hard to believe considering the chat right now. We're
gonna put on a great show for that one guy or girl.
This is for you. This is for you, one person. No, so really the only way for us to probably truly know how many viewers we have on this episode is for every single one of you to hit the thumbs up. So I don't know why it's so difficult. Sometimes we get huge numbers watching, but we don't get that thumbs up. Here's your opportunity. Create a Rumble account. It's not that difficult. They're not asking for your social security number. You just got to put in an email or use, maybe not even an email. Like, I don't even know. Username, password, whatever. Create that account. Hit that thumbs up. Support Rumble. Support us.
Yeah. And if there is just one guy, make thousands of sock accounts throughout the show and hit the thumbs up with every single one of them, please.
People in the chat are saying they see numbers. But are you guys seeing numbers?
No, I see one.
See, so if you are seeing numbers, maybe it's something in the app you can see, but on the computer you can't.
Yeah,
this is what I'm seeing right now.
A little shifty. See, Rumble's trying to suppress us.
And see one person.
Yeah, and I was watching Altered State an hour ago, and I saw one person there too.
Yep,
So
on the mobile app. On mobile app, you can see a live view. It shows 4.6 thousand.
Okay, well,
yep,
I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear any of that, and everything I said already still stands.
Yes.
Because I'm not gonna watch this on mobile. I'm gonna be watching on a computer, and I need to know because of how many of you hit that thumbs up. So do us that favor, hit that thumbs up.
I wonder if most people are watching on desktop or mobile.
I don't know.
I'm shocked that the vast majority of our chat seems to not be watching how we watch, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of difficult to watch on your phone while you're doing the show on the computer, but
true.
Anyway, should be a fun show, mainly because we fought pre-show, and so we already
we've already had one argument.
Yeah, so this is going to be awesome. But besides that, I'll take this off the screen here. We're going to talk about the debate last night, and it's kind of interesting because I thought Trump nailed it, but there is a contingent of people that don't think he didn't think he handled it well. A lot of that is.
Did these people ever get banned from Twitter?
Well, that's part of it. But I'm even saying people who aren't in the info war, people who like my buddies that I text with. I text them as like a sample group. It's like, hey guys, what did you think of the debate last night? And I got some interesting feedback. But yes, there were Con Inc. They are certainly pushing the same narrative as the left and some of these other people. But we're going to talk about it, and then we're also going to talk about Executive Order 13848. It was continued, and that's noteworthy, and there's a few interesting things on there we'll discuss. There's an article that Kyle posted just before the show. I haven't even fully read it yet. I don't know if any of us have, but it's about security and J6 and what they're doing. So we're going to talk about that. And then there's a looming spending bill deadline coming up. We're going to talk about that. And then Bernie Bright really wants to talk about Biden's hat. So we might talk about that too.
No, we don't have to, man. I mean, we can just leave it out. It's not notable at all.
We'll see.
Totally, I do want to give a shout out. My buddy Scott, it's his birthday today, and I like to remind him on 9/11 that anytime somebody wishes him a happy birthday, a terrorist gets their wings. So
is he watching?
It's really probably not, but it's really inappropriate to celebrate your birthday on 9/11 if you were born on 9/11. So I just like to make sure he feels extra bad today.
So you don't think he's watching, but you wish him happy birthday. Just
I'm going to send this to him anyway.
Just so you could say the terrorist wing joke?
Yeah.
Okay.
See how it works.
I like it. Fair enough. Oh, anyway, let's get a word in from our sponsors real quick, and then we'll get right to the meat and potatoes. First up, we got Easy RX. Tonight's show is brought to you by our partners at Easy RX. Did you know that Easy RX has been committed to supplying high-quality medications since 2011? For more than 13 years, Easy RX is focused on your health by supplying much-needed medications like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, fenbendazole, and more. With the COVID-19 election variant and Mpox narrative being pushed, they're in full swing right now. It's the perfect time to stock up on these essentials. If you don't have these, you really should. There's no reason not to. The ordering process is simple, the shipping is fast, and the prices are unbeatable. Rest assured that you and your loved ones are ready for anything by visiting badlandsmedia.tv/EasyRx. Don't forget to use the promo code BADLANDS for 10% off purchases of $150 or more. That's badlandsmedia.tv/EasyRx, promo code BADLANDS. And then our second sponsor of tonight's show is Next of Can. I'm really kind of bummed out that I won't be able to attend this because I'll have my kids this weekend. But Next of Can, they're a nonprofit 503c founded by Randon Dauman. Randon is a Wisconsin native who also played baseball for the Minnesota Gophers baseball team. Graduated from Minnesota in 2023. And he'd like to invite you to their next golf event on September 28th in Minnesota. I met his mother at the Dallas event, and they both came to the Minnesota Badlanders meetup at Quinny's Bar. So great people. But Next to Can believes every child deserves the chance to explore and excel in their passions of sports and the fine arts. Their mission is to bridge the gap between potential and opportunity, not only raise funds, but they collect donated equipment and provide access to that equipment for those who may face financial barriers. They love providing the tools that children need to excel in sports and fine arts. So if you can attend this golf outing, if you're in Minnesota, or if you're CanCon in Florida and want to fly up for it, it's on September 28th in Ham Lake. So you can sign up a team. I'm actually looking to sponsor a team if we can get some people to go that have a chance of winning. So that's criteria. You got to be good golfers. But go to nextofcan.org, see if you can sponsor, donate, sponsor a hole, whatever. Let's help these guys out. They're great people. They're Badlanders. And yeah, bummed I can't make it. Next time he's going to have to schedule this after consulting with my schedule first.
Right.
But,
which means
right,
John
guys.
will have to consult with Mrs. Bright to see what his schedule is for then.
Your people call my people.
Yeah.
We'll get it sorted out. All right, man. Okay, so neither of you were on the coverage last night, so F both of you for that. But I am curious what you guys think about the debate last night.
We're doomed. We're doomed.
Yeah.
We need a new candidate. What is it now? What are we, 8 years into this stuff?
8
Something
years
like that.
In.
Trump's he just doesn't have it. Turns out all it took was a wine mom to get up there and look disapprovingly at him while just spouting bullshit over and over again.
I don't even like calling her a wine mom because
is
that's
she
not
a
fair to
mom?
wine
Yeah,
moms.
you're right.
Does
you're
she
right.
have kids?
She's not. I don't think so.
She has stepkids.
Does she? Yeah, I mean those aren't
Because
real
I just
kids.
don't think of her as a mom. I was gonna say
I don't think
I
she
get
does.
I get the wine mom joke, but I actually don't like.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it's
giving
I think
her a
it's
compliment
insulting.
that doesn't.
It is.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's giving her too much credit.
But I mean, she's a stepmom. She has those are kids. You're you can't just discount being a stepmother completely. I mean, you guys kind of.
I detect no motherhood in her at all. There's nothing about her.
She has not had kids herself.
Yeah.
Nothing about her seems motherly at all.
No, but anyway, besides the wine mom thing, and Trump being doomed, that's it. That's all you got. The sarcasm.
Well, I mean, I'll let Kyle give his, but I mean, my takeaway was, I think it might have been Patrick. I was on a delay, but I watched the coverage, the Badlands coverage. It might have been Patrick that was saying before the debate that he felt that some in MAGA were sort of setting themselves up for disappointment because they were comparing this, they were comparing it in the pre-run to the Trump-Biden debate. And I think it was a good thing for him to say. It's like Kamala Harris can say sentences, right? Mm-hmm. This is where we're at right now. We have a person who's got on TV and she affected the mood of a 2024 Twitter wine mom and stared at Donald Trump and did this thing with her chin in her hand a lot and said stuff that wasn't true with an attitude. And that was the bar for all of the people that turned on Donald Trump in November of 2022. That is very well documented. When Ron DeSantis was front run by Donald Trump, who announced his candidacy for president for this year too early, according to all of these people. And then when DeSantis was run out of the building in the ensuing year and a half, they all came back and became lifelong Trump supporters again, right? So they've been looking for something to turn, and apparently this is it. I mean, if you're going to find something, it's this. So to me, it was almost a non-event, and I guess that's the event of it. It was not that eventful. I'm not going to sit here and say, like, Kamala Harris had as bad a performance of Joe Biden. Of course she didn't. That was the worst presidential debate in the history of world politics in June, right? So she did 20% better than that. And, you know, I genuinely think that I agree with Chris, a lot of what he was saying on that broadcast, that the more energy we give to this, I know we're going to talk about this in this context, but the more energy we as Trump supporters give to the veracity of a debate with Kamala Harris is sort of lending credence to the idea that there's a couple ticks on some polling charts and Kamala can have a couple of good nights on TV, and all of a sudden, we actually think this country is 50-50. And I just don't think that's the case. So I find people that are discussing the debate in those terms to be a little exhausting to me at this stage.
Kyle?
So I've said before that I like what Trump has done with debates through his time as a candidate, starting in 2015, 2016, right? And I like how he is, as somebody I watched presidential debates back in the 90s when I was a kid with my dad. And I'm pretty sure I've seen all the presidential debates since the mid 90s, maybe. And I remember that in almost all of them, I would feel like the Republican always had the best ideas and made the best arguments. And I agreed with them the most and felt like they won as long as they didn't say something embarrassing or have an embarrassing moment. I feel like they won. And then I would be disappointed the next day when all the media reported about how the Republican lost and reported all their blunders and then wrote all these articles about the Democrat did so great. And I would find it frustrating up until Trump came along and he proved what I had always feared, but known to be true, which was that the debates really aren't about ideas. The debates are about a show. And ideas are the pretend vehicle we use to put on a show in which it's kind of a death match where like a 1v1 death match in Halo kind of thing, where it's like you take one hit and you're dead. So it's like pistols only, duel, and one shot, one kill. And then that's what we watched last night, and nobody got shot. So you would think it's a wash. And my straight up opinion on the debate last night is that all things considered, presentation, expectations going in, context, ideas, policy points, what attacks, what points were scored back and forth, the fact-checking errors, the bias of the media, all things considered, it's a wash. Trump wins on merit. Trump wins on ideas. Trump wins on point by point. If we break it down and we looked at it on paper and we scored it like a traditional Lincoln-Douglas debate, Trump won. And Kamala Harris probably gets some demerits or some reprimands for personal insults and for the type of language she used, which I kind of want to touch on for a moment. Kamala engaged in some of the most overt programming that a candidate can. She did it 3 to 5 times where she looked in the camera and told the audience, Mr. Trump's going to lie to you tonight. And predicted and programmed. That was the most persuasive, manipulative moments of the debate, was her trying to tell people what Trump was going to say and how it was all going to be false and you can't listen to him. And it's extreme manipulation. And I found it very distasteful, but it also was like, I kind of liked it because it was that's who she is and that's who they are. And they think of the audience as being so stupid that they can use a trick like that and somehow win, and people aren't going to notice that it's condescending. But it ends up being a wash because like I was saying, Trump point by point, check by check, Trump wins on all those things, but that doesn't actually matter. I wish it did, but long ago I accepted it doesn't. What matters is how people feel about the debate. And I think just scanning the reactions that I've seen on TV and various social media places, I think that a lot of people feel like Kamala won because the expectations going in were that Trump was going to destroy her and that she was not going to do well, and that the bare minimum expectation was just survive. Because the last time there was a presidential debate, Trump literally took out the sitting president of the United States. I know that Biden has all of his issues, all of that, but just on paper, what did Trump do? Trump used a single event, one night on stage, and within 15 to 30 minutes, Biden was dead as a candidate. That's the last time Trump was on stage with another candidate. That's what he did. So I think the expectations and the context going into last night was that as long as Kamala survives, it's okay. She did a little bit better than survive last night, but she didn't score any huge blows against Trump. That said, Trump didn't score any huge blows against her either. So I think it has the feeling that Kamala won by not losing, and that Trump lost by not overtly winning in some spectacular fashion. And to me, I know this, like, I won't go too deep into this, but it reminds me of when in like Formula One, and this will work in other sports too. Don't worry, John, it'll be real quick. This will work in other sporting contexts too. When there's somebody who's like a junior or a reserve player or somebody who's typically on the bench, and they get put in for several plays or for a weekend or a race, and the expectations are not that they're going to win or that they're going to score the winning touchdown or they're going to strike out the best hitters on the opposing team. The expectation is, and the hope is, that they will just do well enough for the time that they're filling in for the actual person that you want to be there. So it's basically, don't fuck up while you're in the game, play the position to the best of your ability. Don't try and win it, because you're not. You're just in there for the moment. You're not the guy. You're just filling in, right? And when that reserve player, whoever they are, does that and comes back off the field, everybody high fives them and the coach congratulates them. And it's almost like it's like this small little victory, right? Because the person met all the expectations that were set for them. They achieved the objectives. Good game. You're done. And I feel like that's what we saw last night with Kamala, where it was like she didn't come in there and like win the day. She came in there, survived, ate some punches from Trump, tried some jabs, which didn't do any damage. And then after it was over, said, I won. By the way, can we have another debate? Because I want to try and win again. And so, And then the media ended up writing all these stories about how she won, which, very last thing, what were all the news stories 12 hours after the debate? 12 hours after the debate, it was about 9/11 and the handshake. Mm-hmm. So I think whatever momentum she may have gotten with low info, peripheral, cursory voters who probably only watched the first 30 minutes of the debate last night and saw a scatterbrained, nervous Kamala jump around points and basically survive against Trump. And then they tuned it off once things got contentious, most likely, or before they got contentious, because people don't want to watch 30 minutes of presidential debates. Now, most people are going to watch 30 minutes and leave, which, by the way, this thing got 30 million less views than the Hillary Clinton and Trump debate. This was not well watched.
Yeah.
So I think that those handshake stories and that image from the next morning kind of undoes some of the separation that the media tried to create last night. Because the headlines this morning were Trump, Kamala shake hands after debate. And so basically it's just the whole thing is a wash. And anybody trying to make this out to be a huge win for either side or a huge loss, I think you're extracting way too much out of it.
Okay, so I'm going to take your metaphor about the reserve coming in and just like doing their job and getting off, and kind of switch it up a little bit to, it's like a kid with disabilities who they put in the game and the whole team is like protecting him and letting that person score. You know what I mean? That's what last night was. Everything that they did was like set up for Kamala. The pre-coverage debate was all about Trump. Watch Trump's demeanor, all these things. Like they were setting this trap for him. Then they had the actual debate. They set all these traps. They lied about all this stuff. They were expecting Trump to react poorly. And then post-coverage debate, they said, oh, she nailed all these. She trapped Trump. She laid all this bait and he fell for it, all these things. I don't really think that actually happened.
No, he did well.
And this was
he avoided it all.
Yeah, this was the one thing that in my like texting with people, that was the comment I got. Like, oh, I wish Trump wouldn't have like responded to this stuff and just stuck with the policy issues. And I wish he would have just done all these things. Trump last night, that was presidential, like measured Trump. People forget how Trump was in 2016. And so I have a little video I'm going to play you guys, a little compilation I put together. I took a 20-minute long video and shortened this down to like 3 or 4 minutes. And this is how Trump acted in 2016. If that was 2016 Trump last night, he would have like thrown the podium at Kamala with
which is what they wanted him to do.
That's what I'm saying. It was they were trying to bait him and he didn't take any of it. He actually he responded in a few key places, but I thought he nailed it. Check this out.
Keep saying that Hispanics love you.
True.
And yes, you won the Hispanic vote in Nevada.
True.
But wouldn't that make you an unelectable candidate in a general election?
First of all, I don't believe anything Telemundo says.
You used to say that you love.
Number one.
This is a tough business to run for president.
No, you're a tough guy, Jeb.
And we need to have a leader that is
real tough. Honestly, I think Jeb is a very nice person. He's a very nice person, but we need tough people. We need toughness. We need intelligence, and we need tough. Am I allowed to finish?
Go ahead, Mr. Trump.
So, again, I know you're trying to build
Bush,
up your energy,
please.
Jeb, but it's not working
one at a time.
Yeah. Look. Let me just, he wants to be a tough guy. A lot of times, you'll have, and it doesn't work very well with
How tough is it to take property from an elderly woman?
Let me talk. Quiet.
How
a
tough
lot
is
of
it?
times, I never attacked him on his look, and believe me, there's plenty of subject matter right there.
I think you're on the wrong side of this if you're still arguing for a single-payer system.
I don't think you heard me. You're having a hard time tonight.
All right,
With the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
I made a mistake using a private email.
That's for sure.
And if I had to do it over again, I would obviously do it differently.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't.
You told me on my radio show, the audio and the transcript are out there on YouTube, that you would release your tax returns.
True.
Are you going back on your
No, I'm not.
commitment?
First of all, very few people listen to your radio show. That's the good news. Let me just tell you. Which happens to be true. Check out the ratings.
That's a matter of principle, and I'll tell you.
You are the single biggest liar. You probably are worse than Jeb Bush. You are the single biggest liar.
All right.
This guy lied. Let me just tell you. This guy lied about Ben Carson when he took votes away from Ben Carson in Iowa. This guy will say anything. You might say, you might talk. Your politicians all talk, no action. I've been watching it all my life. You are all talk and no action. What I've seen up here, I mean, first of all, this guy's a joke artist and this guy's a liar. You have a combination.
This guy always goes.
You have
In the States,
I was a businessman. I got along with Clinton. I got along with everybody.
Yeah.
That was my job, to get along with people.
But the
I didn't
simple
want
fact
to.
is-
Excuse me. 1 second.
No.
I
The
didn't
simple
want to.
fact is, Donald, you cannot take-
More energy tonight. I like that. You've been doing this for 30 years. Why are you just thinking about these solutions right now? For 30 years you've been doing it, and now you're just starting to think of solutions.
Well, actually,
I will bring back jobs. You can't bring back jobs.
Well, once it was finally negotiated and the terms were laid out, I wrote about that in...
You called it the gold standard. You called it the gold standard of trade deals. You said it's the finest deal you've ever seen.
No.
And then you heard what I said about it, and all of a sudden you were against. I'd like to know, Anderson, why aren't you bringing up the emails? I'd like to know. Why aren't you
We brought up the emails.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. And it hasn't been finished at all. This little guy has lied so much about my record.
There we go. The person.
He has lied so much about my record.
Mr. Rubio, Senator.
I also happen to call him a lightweight, okay, and I have said that. So I would like to take that back. He's really not that much of a lightweight. And as far as, and I have to say this, He hit my hands. Nobody has ever hit my hands. I've never heard of this one. Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee.
That was 2016 Trump. And that is what the Kamala Harris campaign and the media were expecting last night. And that is not what Trump gave them. Trump gave them a measured, like if that was the Trump we had last night, it would have been a lot worse. And so for those of you who are like saying, oh, I wish he wouldn't have responded to these things. I wish he would have stuck to the issues, all these things. It was 3-1. And he really didn't get that far into the mud. But when the post-debate coverage is all about like, oh, Kamala Harris laid all these bait and traps and all these things. And then you have Con Inc. out there too, saying the same thing, like nitpicking on these issues. I wish you would have responded to this better. I wish you would have done this better. You should have focused on the independents more, all these things. And that's another line. Like at this point in time, these debates aren't meant to actually swing voters. I don't believe it.
Yeah, it's just a death match thing. It's only if somebody gets taken out.
Yeah, Trump had enough to win the 2020 election. His base has only grown since then. And people who are like actually supporting Kamala Harris, they're not switching side because of Trump's debate. There might be a small number of independents who haven't made up their mind yet, but the debate isn't what's going to do it. It's the actual like how they're living and how prices are affecting them. And so this debate was, I believe, just because it was scheduled, it was agreed to with Biden. We got the one debate. The fact that Kamala wants another one tells me a lot. I don't think he should do it unless he gets like actual fair, somewhat fair moderators. Because in an actual debate where you debate the issues, he wipes the floor with her. She doesn't have any issues. But last night it was a win for me.
I think that's why he's saying no now to another debate. But I think he will say yes. I think he's just bargaining.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all it is he's bargaining for a little bit of a change in how the debate is going. It's going to make them want it a little more because she, no matter what the media writes, she didn't gain voters out of this. She just managed to survive. That's it. So she doesn't have any gain to get out of this. And the only thing, she's not going to win voters here. The only thing she can do is damage Trump's support is what I think they're going for. So, and she does that by somehow undermining him and getting him to trip up. So I think she's going to want another debate and try and force one to happen to try and set that trap, to try and create a condition where there's some sort of bad moment.
They didn't want the debate to be about the issues. Kamala Harris' side. They wanted nothing to do with the issues. She was clearly fed the answers ahead of time, or the questions ahead of time. She had multiple scripted answers and scripted responses. And another way they skewed this thing is like most debates, like they zoom in on the one person responding and they keep it on him for the majority of it. Almost a majority of the time that Trump was talking, they had her on the side of the screen, the split screen, so that you could see her reactions. They made it about her reactions instead of the stuff Trump was saying. There's all these little things they were doing to skew it in her favor and against Trump.
But I don't think, while we pick up on that stuff, I don't think the actual people who would be influenced by a debate, which is a very small number of people, I don't think they pick up on any of that stuff.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine people actually exist right now that like don't already know who they're going to be voting for.
Yeah, haven't made their decision.
I really question how many there are.
Like even my buddies, I texted them like they were nitpicky about a couple things, but I know they're all voting Trump. Like I don't see how.
Well, the reason that's actually touches on the reason that I come off a little more like Chris, and I liked some of Zach's comments after the debate as well, where he had even talked about the fact that Kamala and her team and the media are calling for a second debate, and had said like this is a classic counterpuncher Trump setup of sort of be careful what you wish for. Because like you said, Kyle, I do think that he'll end up acquiesced. Like if they really force the issue, he's not going to allow himself to be seen in the public narrative as retreating from the debate stage. That would be worse narratively. That would actually be something where I would say that was a stupid move to debate her once and then say you're not going to do it anymore, because I think that's sort of a narrative loss. But the reason I come off a little bit more, I don't know, exhausted by it and annoyed, I guess, is that everything you guys laid out is absolutely true in terms of who's actually being swayed at this point, whose votes are changing based on the issues of the Kamala versus Trump debate on frickin' September 9th, or 10th. Nobody. It's an infinitesimally small, statistically insignificant number of Americans, right? But the reason that it annoys me when people are micro-analyzing it, when I say that, I'm talking about Conning and even the people you're texting. It's not their fault. It's just, it's more to me indicative or symptomatic of the sort of controlled opposition dynamic that the political machine in the United States has trapped the American people into. The machine knows that people's minds were not changed last night, but what is troubling is when you have Trump supporters who know that they're going to support Donald Trump, and they have the last 2 election cycles, and obviously they're going forward, going, well, I don't know. Now Political told me that he didn't perform all that well in the debate, right? So it's not about their votes changing. It's about them believing that this election is close. And that all these debates are trying to do from the perspective of the machine is quite simply codify the idea that this is a close election. Like, we have to watch a debate between these 2 candidates because it's so close and so important that anything said on either side could be what decides the election. That's what they're all talking about. Even the pro-Kamala headlines are saying, well, Kamala had some good moments, but she's really got to keep the pressure on. That kind of narrative framing just codes into the American people. This is close, it's close, it's close, it's close. And if all you need is it to be close and close and close, and this is the same person who, as many in this community point out, didn't receive a single delegate vote in 2020. She is the least popular American politician of the last 30 years. Like, when we microanalyze whether Trump scored points or Kamala scored points, I think it's lending energy to that machine. And the reason I focus in on that is the people that are doing that the most are all those big following Conning type of people who did this in 2022 and all told everybody for 2 weeks that Donald Trump announced his candidacy for president too early and this wasn't going to work and he needs to step aside and let DeSantis in there. And I'm long term, I'm not upset about it because I know in a week, all those narratives are going to be gone, right? Like, right now, the debate is the whole story. 1 week from now, that's probably not going to be the narrative. But that's why I think we're at the stage where Kamala Harris and her whole ilk, when you talk about even policies, she didn't even have anything. Like, even the moderators who, as you said, John, were obviously there to help her, there was a point where they couldn't because they said, well, Kamala, you did literally reverse your position 180 degrees on everything. So can you explain to the American people why that is? And she didn't have an answer, right? So there was no debate, is my point. And
So on that point right there, to me, that was them helping her. They're like, you did switch your policies on these things. Here's your opportunity.
They were trying to. Yeah.
Here's your opportunity to explain why that is.
Yeah.
But when they allow something like the Charleston hoax to get brought up again, and the moderators didn't correct it, Charlottesville, sorry, and the bloodbath hoax, like, the moderators allowed that to happen, but they were fact checking Trump on stuff he was saying, but they wouldn't do it on her. That's what's bullshit. And like the part where the whole racism thing, I can't remember who posted. I think it might have been Jack Posobiec. So here I'm going to quote something Jack Posobiec said on Twitter. Prepare yourselves. Write this down. Put in your calendars. He said, he posted, moderators, like, question to Trump, why are you a racist? And then next question to Kamala, why is Trump a racist? Like, that's how they were framing everything, attacking him. And it's just the whole thing was bullshit. But I loved what Ghost of Base Patrick Henry said last night about this was an op from the get-go. Gavin Newsom was out there ahead of the debate talking about baiting and Trump. Kamala laid the traps. He handled it very well, considering all things considered. He handled it pretty damn well. And then afterwards, even though he didn't fall for much of the bait, that's what the coverage was, as if he did. And so the people the people who are going to fall for that, they're going to fall for that regardless. The numbers of the number of people who are actually watching the mainstream media and like that is why they're choosing who they're choosing. We're not going to get them from a debate anyway, so it's really not that big of a deal. But I think this was a win in the end, especially if we get that second debate, because then it's going to be on his terms, and you can't protect Kamala again like this. He wouldn't agree to a second debate if there's protection involved. So. But there were a couple interesting things, though, about the debate last night I want to talk about. There was a portion in the debate where they were discussing the abortion topic, and they referenced J.D. Vance, something J.D. Vance said about how Trump would veto a national abortion bill or something. I don't remember specifically what was said, but I remember the part about J.D. Vance would veto it. And then Trump's comment in response was, well, I actually never talked to J.D. Vance about this. And so, I mean, I know as a vice president, he can kind of speak for me, but we never had that discussion. And I found that to be interesting. That was like instance number one that I thought was interesting. I don't know if you guys have anything to talk about that, but I have more. So it's up to you.
I liked it as an answer because it was just an honest, very human answer. It's like, yeah, that's that dude's opinion about it. I actually haven't talked to him about it, but yeah, that's his opinion. Like it's like a very like it's what you would normally say if somebody said, "Hey, Kyle, did you hear John's opinion about such and such?" And we're like, oh, I hadn't talked to John about it, but that's his opinion. Right. Okay. Like big deal.
I think it kept. I think we might think of it. Is there more going on there? Which maybe there is, but from a surface level, it was Trump keeping the debate like that's as the liberals often say, being the adult in the room and saying, like, all right, are we talking about J.D. Vance or are we talking about me? So I thought he sort of cut them off when they did that.
He could have at that moment, if it was 2016, Trump said, "Oh, did you get that from the Iranian hack of my campaign's emails that they sent to you guys and you didn't tell anybody for weeks while you went through my campaign's emails? You got a dossier on my VP, didn't you, out of that?" Was that quote in that dossier?
That's coming. Speaking of vice presidents, the part where Trump essentially shut Kamala down and did the thing that she did to Pence back in the 2020 debates on the Hannity interview afterwards. He basically was like, yeah, did you like what I did there? I had to get revenge for what she did in 2020. He basically did that and said that he did it because he wanted to get revenge on behalf of Mike Pence. So wanted to.
I didn't see that. That's good.
Yeah, really good. Another
he said, does that sound familiar? Right? He said, I'm talking. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, but then on Hannity, he said why he did it. And it was in defense of Pence. So that was great. Another one that I keep finding interesting is the border issue. So they keep trying to blame the border issue on Trump, the guy who made Build a Wall a meme. And they specifically called out, like, we were going to get this bill passed. And I don't even remember the specifics of the bill, but she pointed out, like, Trump called his people up on the Hill and said, don't vote for this, and it didn't pass. And it just kind of goes to show the level of control that Trump has over the situation. And when it comes to devolution, I get this question all the time about the border. Why is the border left open? And on top of it being, unfeasible, both financially and operationally, whatever, that's part of the Army pamphlet discussing continuity of government. It's also one of the bigger red pills that we have. And in a narrative warfare, I think that's important. So it's a double-edged sword with the border. Just want to point that out.
What am I mean, I don't know this to be happening, but something that, and I know some people get annoyed when I say it, but I find it very difficult to believe that during the first public Trump administration, he was able to get, 95% of the border wall complete, and just that little sliver. Just couldn't get it done, right? Matter of national security. Like, I'm leaving devolution aside and all of that. He just couldn't get it done, right? And if you think of the Q drops and you think of, for me, when they talk about mapping began long ago. When Trump talks about, I know you bring up quite a bit, when Trump talks about the Eisenhower model, well, how are we going to do that, Donnie? It's almost as if we'd have to know exactly who's coming over the border, exactly where they're coming over the border, exactly where they are right now on September 11th, 2024, in order to implement something like that.
You think something like that, I mean, just playing around here. It's if there was some sort of sting op on the border,
right?
Like if there was, there might be some high level cartel members that would be arrested and extradited.
Or like a firefight a few months ago in which more cartel bosses died than in any cartel firefight ever.
Yeah, you might expect to see something
sort
like
of
that.
And like a Rolling Stone headline talking about how Donald Trump plans to send U.S. Special Forces along with Obrador into Mexico to kill every cartel member. Like that kind of, like sort of the type of thing where you'd let like a little tiny quarter in to map very literally every cartel coming back and forth.
And you'd probably have like people that were family members and associates of high level people that had $10 million bounties on them, deciding they should flip since they can't trust anybody around them because there's this sting op developing and suddenly people are disappearing and portions of the network are being taken down, bank accounts being frozen. Of course, we haven't seen anything like that in the past 4 years. So
yeah, I think that the border. I mean, like the reason that I said sometimes it's controversial, as Kyle's obviously alluding to. I genuinely believe that the border was deliberately slightly left open for the purposes of a sting operation, because the Eisenhower model, the war against the cartels, is not possible without that. And as John said, the double bonus of this is that you get all of the narrative benefit and there are actual reasons, right? So the people that are like, what about the damages? Well, you've also got to map these cells and you've got to take them out. So how are you going to do that?
No, I have, sorry, I just got to pull this up here. Because speaking of the border, I came across this. This was, gosh, like a month ago, and I've been waiting to put it out. Or talk about it, but I want to show you guys. I just got to get back to the right date because it's actually 9/11. It was 4 years ago. Check this out. This was a proposed rule put out by Homeland Security under Trump, 9/11 of 2020. The collection and use of biometrics by U.S. citizenship and immigration services, and then. This proposed rule, oh man, this is a long ass document too. In recent years, I think this is it. Yeah, so they proposed basically using fingerprints, palm prints, photograph, signature, voice print, iris image, and DNA on people coming over the border, everybody coming over the border. On top of that, pretty much all these people are getting cell phones. So not only are you going to be able to track these people while they're here, but then you're going to be able to confirm who they are when they get here and then get rid of them. And
you're going to be able to track their votes if they are participating in fake elections.
Potentially,
right?
Yes.
So, and that's what I think. This is a great actual to bring up, John, because a lot of this is where you have to go bicameral. Ironically, a lot of the doom mongering among good MAGA influencers. I'm not even talking about Con Inc. right now. I mean Donald Trump, Dan Bongino, like Steve Bannon, people that I think are good, actually believe in the America First message. When they point all these things out about the border, they can be telling you the truth on the surface level while not talking about how these very things and these very metrics and policies are also going to be used to take these people out, track them, track everything they do. So all the doom mongering, when you see a lot of conservative media talking about how these illegals are being registered to vote and this is all they need to vote, that's true. But it's also kind of good news because we know exactly who they are and exactly how many of them there are.
And, that kind of brings us to something I was going to say for the end, but we should talk about this. The money situation with our government. There's the November 30th, I believe, or October 1st is the deadline for the vote for the next spending resolution to pass. They're looking to put a bill in to get us through March of 2025. And Speaker Johnson has done something kind of interesting, and I'm hoping they have the balls to follow through on this, because if they do, it's a win-win for MAGA, okay, and Trump. So they have attached the SAVE Act, which would basically require proof of U.S. citizenship to vote, and attached it to the spending bill that they're trying to pass through. And so they're saying if they don't let this pass through, then we're not going to fund the government. And so if that's true, if they hold true to this, the two outcomes we could get is one, the SAVE Act actually being passed, and therefore these illegal immigrants, the whole reason they were let in here, in many people's opinions, is just so they could vote. But if that happens, they can't vote. That's a win, narrative win and actual win in many cases. But if it doesn't, then the government shuts down, and that's something that I think is also a win for Trump. We've been saying for a long time on the show that the economy is the greatest red pill. Doesn't matter your politics. If you can't afford your groceries, you're probably not going to vote for the person that's currently in office. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's a huge deal. We've also been saying, and Trump himself has said, that we're going to have a crash of some sort, like a 1929 situation. I might even have that clip if I can pull it up here. We have a default here. Here's one for default.
Okay? Mr. President, we've got another voter here tonight.
And by the way, you're going to default eventually anyway, but it's going to be much messier. I don't think you'll have to default.
There's that, and then there's this one.
All of this incredible job that we've done will go down like that. It will be a terrible, terrible sight. It might even be a 1929 situation, so you have a chance to have the greatest numbers in history. You're almost there. We're almost back to where we were from the standpoint of the stock market. Think of that.
So people in the chat are saying that Johnson already pulled this out of the bill. So there goes that, if that's true, because
I was looking for
didn't
it.
have the balls for it.
See it, but
let me look that up if you guys have any comments on it, because there's an opportunity there.
Republicans will fold. There's no way the government will shut down right before we head into an election. There's no way.
Wouldn't that be juicy though?
Mm-hmm. I would like to sugarcoat it, but I'm going to be cynical when it comes to the GOP establishment. And 60 days out from an election, they're not going to do anything that makes them look bad in the media. They're going to play it safe as they can possibly play it from now until November.
Ironically, I mean, I think I agree with that. That's gone to my head. That's what I think is going to happen. But this whole era, we've talked about this on this show for a couple of years now. We definitely believe to varying degrees that a huge part of what's going on here is exposure. And we talk about it on so many different levels. And some of that exposure, the most overt exposure, is things like what we were just talking about. Border security, corruption in politics, fraudulent elections, right? Those are the big headline generating exposures. But I think kind of a soft exposure that has been going on. When I saw this funding bill headlines kind of coming across my feed in the last few days, the thought that went through my mind was, again? And I really think that's kind of the point. Like, this was not a thing 10 years ago. It would be this thing that very occasionally would come up in US politics. And I think what you're seeing there is that the Uniparty was much more hidden back in the day. They all sort of just kept things greased along, right? So the fact that, what's this, Mike Johnson's second or third time, his third kick at the can of trying to keep the government funded, and what we're told in breathless headlines is an emergency stopgap bill. Before Mike Johnson, it was McCarthy, right? And the last three speakers have been having these headlines generated, and I kind of think that is the point. I think that's the exposure. It's whatever happens with government funding. Part of what Trump is signaling, even in the debate with Kamala, particularly when he's talking about the Middle East and Russia, etc., but also with the US, is the adults in the room thing. He wants to come back in here and say, we're not going to do this thing where every 6 months we run headlines for 3 weeks about how the government's going to shut down, right? Why is this happening? And that's why I ultimately do think it's going to continue. I think the bullshit's going to continue. But I think that way more American people now on both sides of the aisle are aware that Congress can't seem to get anything done, and they can't seem to agree with each other on anything. So I think that polarization is kind of a bit of exposure for them. It means that right now, I believe, U.S. Congress, bipartisan, has the lowest approval ratings in American history. And it's not just because people think, to your point, John, it's not just because people think the economy is bad. That's a huge thing, of course. But it's probably because anything they hear about Congress is that Congress needs to get together and do X or they'll be shut down in a month. And that's happening every 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, most of the people that I talk to that I would consider to be normies don't pay attention enough to like even hear about Congress.
Yeah, they
but
probably don't even know.
Right.
Right.
What I looked it up, and he didn't pull the SAVE Act thing out necessarily. He just pulled the bill from vote. So they were gonna vote on this continuing resolution, 6-month continuing resolution. That specific vote had the SAVE Act in there. He pulled it, so they didn't even vote on it. Doesn't mean he won't put it back out there later. It doesn't mean he might. Who knows? We'll have to see what he does. But that deadline is looming, and that is something we've been looking at for a while. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see more drama surrounding this. Maybe not. Maybe not. But I would think that especially if you're Trump and you have some level of control and you want things to go a certain way, you want the economy to be at its worst, and like under Biden when he's not in office. So we'll see what happens. But I do want to. We should get to the boosts, and then we can get into our next topic. But before we do that, I just want to make a quick little announcement. Badlands Media's second documentary, The Crucible of Donald Trump, is now live on our Rumble. It's pinned at the top there. I just turned it live right now. So you are able to go watch that and share that around as you please. So make sure you guys check it out.
After the show, of course.
After the show, not right now.
Not during the show. All right, we got a boost from Chris W, $20. Kyle, if you hosted an F1 show with rocket-powered Mohawk as your co-host, I would send you enough Rumble rants to buy you your own Dasha. His inbred ruins Aston Martin is top keck.
Dude, that guy is one of my favorite people in motorsport media period. He's hilarious. He's pretty based too.
I agree. You should do your own show so you don't have to talk about it on this show.
John will give you a show specifically to stop this right now.
Just fucking do it.
Film Pro Joe, $17. Did you guys see the Rumble CEO's response to Dunkin' Donuts? He trashed their coffee in a video after they refused to advertise on the platform, calling it too polarizing. Thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's great. I think. I mean,
didn't see this.
Dunkin' Donuts is not the only one, but there's a couple of companies that Chris came out and was like, the CEO of Rumble, was like, here's the emails and the exchanges we had. These people refused to advertise on Rumble, and there's plenty of based conservative coffee companies. You got the ones who support us, Loaded Gun, the ones who support Rumble. I think they have their own 1775 coffee. So yeah, screw Dunkin', screw all those advertisers. That when Trump gets back in, that's gone. That mindset, that behavior.
That is happening too. I find Robbie Starbuck kind of annoying, but a lot of the media narratives are showing that there is a mass reversal going on DEI initiatives at many of these companies because they're kind of all getting reverse Uno card canceled.
Yeah.
Mama Jan, $50. This was the first unofficial Trump ad I saw after the 2020 loss. It's the only thing that gave me comfort during that horrific time. 5 minutes of hope and maybe comms. I'd love your take on it. Which one was this?
We'll check that out after.
It's the Donald Trump silent running video. I'll post it in the chat here.
Thank you.
I'll save it for later. Thank you for that. Ironically, my most inspirational Trump video is Michael Moore accidentally giving the most based Trump endorsement ever in 2016. Lionheart sends $100 over. Hey, gents, best Evo proof ever. Heels up Harris' decision to mock Trump's rallies, which are bigger than the Super Bowl. I can't stand her, but even I felt sorry for her as she tried pulling that off. Enjoying the clown show yet?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Like encouraging everybody to go to one of his debates when you can't even we can't even find like when her debates are. Like,
was that a Patrick Gunnels comm? She might have been taking a shot directly at Patrick with that
Maybe
one.
Patrick's tried to go to a Kamala Harris debate or rally, and he can't find it. Like, you can't get it. You have to be pre-screened and paid and all this shit. So
yeah,
not possible.
Well, like you said earlier, I mean, that's a lot of what she was doing. Buck 8056, $20. Trump left so much unsaid. Easy layups. It was so obvious, like a dad playing one-on-one with his 12-year-old daughter and allowing her to win, letting her think she won. This was a setup for the next debate. I know Zach was saying that too, and we'll see. I mean, certainly there's been no two Trump debates that are alike.
No.
Indivisible values, $10. Could Joe being out of the race clear a path in October for a surprise Hunter indictment and spotlight on his laptop? If there's a white hat mole in the corrupt DOJ, will fifth generation warfare have the public screaming for justice? October disclosures incoming.
What was the first part of that question?
Joe being out of the race, could it clear a path for October surprise being a Hunter indictment and spotlight on his laptop? He's been indicted many times.
I feel like a lot of the exposure stuff that we'll get is going to come when Trump's back in office, like a majority of that. I don't know if we're going to. I don't think that's not the October surprise I think is coming. I think it's going to be more like Russia interference stuff.
Yeah.
I think Weiss will hold off, but with Hunter having been guilty in the gun case and then him pleading guilty in spectacular fashion last week on the tax charges
to avoid trial. Yeah.
Then there's Smirnov, who is still in limbo, still trying to get out of imprisonment because he wants to flee the country, most likely. Weiss isn't done, but he's done with the indictments against Hunter, except for Hunter's appeal in the gun case, which is being sorted out. We know that Weiss had a FARA investigation going, and we know he was looking at James Biden as well. So I don't think it's out of the question at all and I think it's a possibility that Weiss does indict James Biden or comes out with another indictment of Hunter for failing to register as a foreign agent. Because even up until the day of trial, Weiss's team was like, yeah, we're going to bring in evidence related to Hunter working as with these foreign companies and taking in foreign money. So it's going to be evidence of FARA violations, but we're not charging him. We're not allegating for FARA violations in that tax case in California.
You know what? That's interesting.
But that stuff still was going to be there. And that stuff was still a factor in that case. You can't talk about the income that was at issue in that case without also talking about the foreign relations that led to that income, which should have led to Hunter registering as a foreign agent. So I don't think it's out of the question that Weiss is going to bring another indictment, but I do think he will hold off doing it before the election.
You know what? That's interesting for a couple of reasons. Number one, last night in the debate, Trump hammered Biden on that for a little bit about the foreign money and the money from the, Russian governor's wife or whatever.
Yes, he did.
But also, that could be a reason that they wanted to get rid of Biden from the ticket because they knew something might be coming.
That is correct. That is correct.
Right.
And with Biden not being a candidate, I don't know. Weiss may say, "Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring another indictment because he's not a candidate," which the liberals would have and the media would react to as Weiss being Trump's attack dog and trying. But I don't know. We'll see. I think there's going to be more action with the Biden family and against the Biden crime family. I just don't know if it's going to happen in the next 60 days. I think it might happen after the election.
There's a lot of ways this maps to, but it is worth throwing in there that the Hunt for Red October Q drops. Some people definitely relate them pretty significantly to Hunter Biden and just a lot of the analogs, not just of the name, but the context of a lot of those drops. So.
Bringing a FARA case against him, I wonder how him pleading guilty to these tax charges, because he didn't do the Alford plea. He didn't wait for his attorneys to pitch the Alford plea and the prosecution to hash it out and try and get a deal. He just pled straight up guilty. How is that going to factor if there's a FARA indictment? And they're going to be like, look, you already pled guilty to taking the money in and not paying taxes on it. And here's the vehicle that gave you the money. It's you doing this foreign work as a lobbyist and not registering. So it's like he already pled guilty to the money trail. See what I'm saying? And then off of that money trail, they can bring further charges.
Yeah.
Is it possible that was the plea though? Like to plead guilty to this, and it's because he's going to get a lighter sentence on the upcoming potential FARA charge?
I don't
have to be
think
disclosed.
So. I don't think so. Although, I mean, I do think that there's a deal that's not on a public piece of paper between them, where the Patriots are bringing indictments against the Biden crime family, and they're just like, look, you're going to have to navigate this to the best of your ability. We're bringing these charges against you. And I think that they gave them a sweetheart plea deal last summer, and Biden's team made sure to blow it up because they're scared of that FARA charge. And then Hunter Biden has basically made every misstep he can since then to Streisand affect both of these cases as much as possible. He Streisand affected the plea deal hearing, the the gun stuff. He went to Congress and Streisand affected Congress and said, invite me in for a hearing. He Streisand affected his custody case. Everything. I mean, he's just this. I mean, imagine this. Like he was offered. Sorry to rehash this from Defected, but imagine a year ago you're offered 3 misdemeanors instead of 9 felonies and 1 misdemeanor or something like that. He was offered 3 misdemeanors, plead to that, no jail time, probably gonna get 5 years probation max and a fine. And he managed to turn that into full-on conviction in 1 case in Delaware, 2 counts, and then 8 felonies and 1 misdemeanor conviction in California.
Yeah.
So he could have had 3 to 5 years probation, 3 misdemeanors, and it is now years in prison, tens of thousands of dollars, and 10 felonies he's been convicted of or something now.
Well, I mean, it's not that he tried, but he didn't get away with it. They tried to sneak through that plea agreement, but the judge didn't allow it because it was bullshit. They're going to try to get away with like a pardon from any other of his associated crimes. They didn't let him do it.
I still disagree with that. I still stand by my initial take that the DOJ that Special Counsel Weiss put a time bomb in that plea agreement, knowing that the judge would have to read it aloud. And when they got to it, Hunter's attorneys would say, no, not the FARA thing. And they blew it. They knew they would blow it up.
I think either way, this past week he broke from his attorneys. So you're talking about the attorneys, John, right?
No, I was saying the judge like found in the plea agreement that like it was bullshit and didn't allow it to go through.
Yeah, I put the win on Weiss's team. I think Weiss put that in there for the judge to open up, knowing it would cause. I give the credit to Special Counsel Weiss's team. You give the credit to the judge. I give it to Weiss's team. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, it takes both. I mean, but Weiss agreed with the attorneys to put that in there, right?
Yes, knowing that Hunter's team would reject it when it was read, but when they got to that part.
Oh, but I thought the judge rejected it.
No. Hunter's team said no to the plea deal because the plea deal wasn't what they wanted, because the plea deal didn't preclude bringing the FARA investigation forward.
Okay. I mean, that
Hunter Biden's team wanted that plea deal to solve the tax case, the gun charge, and preclude any further investigation into FARA. DOJ's when they wrote the plea deal, they didn't include anything that precluded FARA. And they wrote it in a way that when the judge read it, which the judge has to do, the judge has to read it aloud in public, and the defendant has to acknowledge each part and say, yes, I agree. When they got to the part that said that this didn't preclude him from FARA investigations, his attorney said, oh my God, this is not what we want. In DOJ, Special Counsel Weiss's team, well, that's the deal we're putting forward. And Hunter's team walked.
Okay, interesting. Because I was under the impression the judge is the one who raised the concern and then like put it on hold.
The judge brought it up and his team Hunter's team said, no. They are the ones who disagreed and said, no. This isn't the deal we want. And the judge said, the judge turns to DOJ's attorneys and says, if I recall this correctly, the judge asked them, hey, does this mean you can still investigate him for FARA? And the DOJ attorney said yes. And Hunter's attorney said, well, then the deal's off.
Okay. I'm going to send you a link in the chat. And we don't have to go over.
Sorry to sidetrack us into this discussion. All I was trying to say is that I just think that Weiss's team played that brilliantly, and it's led to this, and we still have the FARA thing out there.
Yeah, an interesting note on Weiss, the fact that he is still like he's going to be there from Trump to Trump. Like he's going to go through an entire Biden administration investigating the Bidens and come right back and finish that thing up right where he started under Trump. So that is interesting.
That's probably the most like solid proof against there being some elaborate cover up of the Biden crime family that Weiss is still there.
Yeah.
Because if he was going to cover it all up, he would have
obviously.
just fired Weiss back in January of 2021 and put in his own guy.
He fired everybody except for two guys. And
Lausch.
one was Weiss and one was Lausch. Yep. Yeah, let's keep going. Any more boosts?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, awesome. Let's quick touch on EO 13848. Talked about this last week. I think it was on this show. I was like, this is the week, guys.
Were you getting a little nervous?
Not really. I knew it was coming. I expected it to be done before. I should have known better
They
that
made you sweat it out.
government where I wasn't sweating at all. I knew it was coming. But I predicted it would be Friday. I should have known that they were going to, like, over the weekend, they weren't going to do it early, that they were going to do it later. And they did. They did it Monday. They continued it again. Another continuation of this. And what makes it even more interesting to me is what we talked about on last week's show, where all the talk of Russian interference and everything, and they went after and put sanctions on like 10 Russians, and they didn't even use this executive order, 13848, to sanction them with.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, why the hell is this still going then? Like, you guys aren't even using this to sanction people who you're accusing of, interfering in elections. What's going on? Why are you doing this? Larry Kiram over on Twitter, or Kiram17. I was thinking of somebody else, but this is the guy who posted Kiram17. He posted this, and I thought this was actually pretty fascinating. So on the 7th each year is when this has been continued. This is the 1 year, it was the 9th because it's Saturday. But this is what Trump posted, and I think we read this. Maybe we read it on Saturday. I don't remember. Yeah, we did read this on Saturday's Power, but we're going to read it again because this post by Trump is very much who you would expect to go after with Executive Order 13848. And so it's pretty interesting that Trump posted it on the date that it gets continued every single year. So I'm going to read this. Cease and desist. I, together with many attorneys and legal scholars, am watching the sanctity of the 2024 presidential election very closely because I know, better than most, the rampant cheating and skullduggery that has taken place by the Democrats in the 2020 presidential election. It was a disgrace to our nation. Therefore, the 2024 election, where votes have just started being cast, will be under the closest professional scrutiny. And when I win, those people that cheated will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences, so that this depravity of justice does not happen again. We cannot let our country further devolve, meaning it's already devolved some, into a third world nation. And we won't. Please be aware that this legal exposure extends to lawyers, political operatives, donors, illegal voters, and corrupt election officials. Those involved in unscrupulous behavior will be sought out, caught, and prosecuted at all levels. Unfortunately, never seen before in our country.
Whole bunch of nothing.
Whole bunch of nothing.
That's what I'm getting.
Love it. And it is interesting that this happened on the 7th. But he also pointed out last night, so during the debate, like the Lex Friedman podcast he did, I think, he kind of set up about how he lost by a whisker, and he's been saying that on a couple debates. They asked him the question last night, like, you finally seems to come to terms that you lost 2020. He's like, nah, fuck that. I definitely got that stolen from me. And so he had the opportunity to say it again, which was, that was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, we had, obviously you guys talked about that on Saturday, and then on Sunday we mentioned just the, even if you take specific theories away of devolution theories, etc., it's just, that's the kind of statement Trump puts out that doesn't really map onto a normie engagement with the info war, right? Or the political battle. Like Normieville and Con Inc., etc., the media, they're used to parsing political platforms and shots back and forth. That statement, the way it's written, has the weight, it carries the weight of law. You know, it's written, the way it's written is written as a decree. Much more so than a presidential candidate just saying something, right? It's like, I know it sounds so simple, but besides the specific connections to the executive order, it's just such a strange, sort of discordant thing to put out there from him, which is why often we use the word signal when we're talking about Trump, right? Like he says a lot of stuff, there's a lot of noise he puts out, but that's one of those And I think on both a moral and a legal level, he really feels to me like he's genuinely giving one last warning to the establishment. And even circles back to how we started the show, where we're talking about the debate and we're talking about the media and mainstream narrative about the debate. And that kind of statement sitting there on September 7th is just him saying, like, if you guys really want to spin up this whole election fraud machine again, I'm just going to remind you and leave this here of what's waiting for you.
And you know what? I wish I could figure out when the Biden administration actually posted this continuation, because Trump's post, and shoot, it says 7:01 here, okay, p.m. I don't know, would that be Eastern time? I guess it depends where Kieran's at, right?
Yeah, he posted it at a different time on X, though. On X,
Which
he
was
posted
first?
it at
Do you know which was first?
9:17. He posted it at
Okay.
9:17.
Oh, you're and those seem Kyle brought up a couple Q drops on Sunday that they were juicy.
Yeah, 9:17 is when he posted it on X. Same thing.
Here, let me just go to Trump's. I want to find this out because I was checking all day on Monday, like every 10 minutes.
I checked on the 7th and I didn't see it.
It wasn't on the 7th. I was checking all Monday morning, all day.
Okay.
At about 5 o'clock or so, I went and played pickleball for a couple hours. I get back from pickleball about 8:30, and still wasn't up. Shower, got ready for the show, and then at 9 o'clock before the show went live, I checked again, and it was up.
Okay.
So
You're trying to work pickleball into everything now, man.
Pickleball is awesome, man. If you're not playing pickleball, you're wrong. Okay, but I know, I mean, maybe I just didn't check till it was sometime between 5 and 9 o'clock that it was finally posted. I'm trying to see what time he posted my time. This thing, gosh, that was the 7th. I have to go back a ways.
I know, it feels like forever ago. 4 days.
Yeah, especially with all the debate stuff on here. Oh man, this might take a while. But I wonder if how close together they were posted. You know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I guess it's on the 7th, but anyway, like the time frame, it'd be interesting. But it's not worth scrolling back that far. Anyway. But yeah, so Executive Order 13848 is still going. Big news for us, I would say. And other than that, anything else you guys want to say on 13848? Otherwise, I want to get into that.
Yes. Okay. I like that you started off by mentioning the Russian interference stuff and the other news stories, because guys, think about the stories we've had in the news since like late spring about interference in our elections. It's been stuff about Iran, Russia, and then to a lesser extent, China. But the media has talked a lot about interference in our elections all summer long. And they've given examples, and there's been indictments, and there's been sanctions. There's been all of this stuff, just like you were mentioning. And there has been much reading from both sides about it. But it set the pretense. It set the pretext for the renewal of EO 13848. And I'm not saying that the Biden administration came out and said that, but I see this thing being renewed, and the context of it being renewed again is that there's been 3 months worth of news stories about it, foreign election interference and manipulation. And all of them are very careful to say all the news alerts about it and all the statements from whether it's Treasury or FBI or whoever, state, they all say, well, there's no evidence of a foreign country being able to manipulate the vote count or totals or anything like that. They all make some sort of, qualifier statement like that. And that gives me another thought. What if, and this is not a new thought, but we floated this before, what if Chris Krebs and the 2020 election and all of their comments about foreign interference in 2020 were right, and 2020 wasn't affected by foreign election interference, and that it was the most secure election as far as a foreign entity changing vote totals? It was.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
Wait, say that one more time.
Okay. What if post EO 13848, our elections really have been secured against foreign election interference that leads to vote manipulation. Okay? I'm not talking about just like the email stuff. I'm talking about actual vote manipulation by a foreign government. What if it actually has been secured against that? And what if Chris Krebs was actually making a factually true statement when he said it was the most secure ever in 2020? But what if what Donald Trump is saying is also true? If both are true, that 2020 was stolen, but 2020 was also the most secure, then what happened was it was secure against foreign interference, and all of that interference that resulted in the cheat was done domestically by domestic operators who 13848 would not be used against. So with it being renewed and with Trump making the statement he just made, which was a warning, which Trump is known in his career to give warnings. Trump is known to go to people who are headed down the wrong path, that in some way, whether it's a business relationship, personal relationship, whatever, and give them a warning and say, hey, this ain't going to work out well for you. You need to turn around. And then if they don't, Trump goes through with what he has to go through with and does what he has to do. That statement from him felt like that kind of a statement where it was like, we see you, we know about you, don't do it. Don't do it. So I'm just throwing this all out there because I like looking for ways to make a lot of statements true, a lot of things true, especially things that are backed by an agency or like a person in power. I want to look for ways where it could jive with other things. And what is the pretext for renewing EO 13848? Well, we have a series of examples of foreign interference. Allegedly, I understand. Could totally be fake. I understand. It still gave us the pretext for renewing EO 13848, which we all agree we like.
Yep.
And and so anyway, I'm just looking at that, and you and I, we were wondering a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was a week ago, about why wasn't EO 13848 used this time? And I'm wondering if it's because, well, it didn't actually apply that well to that set of conditions, but they're holding it back for a use case. And I looked back and looked at some of the use cases of it. You know, the very first time was against the Internet Research Agency back in 2019, which came out of the Mueller report and all of that. That leads back to Hillary Clinton's interference in the 2016 election and post 2016. So it's like, to me, like the story of EO 13848 is a story of Democrats and establishment using Russians and Ukraine and associations there to interfere with U.S. elections. And we have this continuing story of one of the efforts the Trump team made, which has become very important to us, EO 13848, yet again being renewed. And it's like, this is a continuation of a line of an effort against foreign interference in our election that has continued from the Trump admin all the way through 6 years straight. And the media keeps playing into it, but Trump team does too. Trump, like we were talking about earlier, Trump team seems to invite some of this. We were talking about Defected. Trump team seems to invite some, I think it was on Defected, right?
Yeah.
They'll invite the Russian attacks.
Yeah.
Anytime that media or Democrats go towards the Russia stuff, he's like, bring it. He plays into it. So anyway, I think I'm starting to see the shape of some design here. And it makes me look back on comments about 2020 and then think about Trump's Truth Social statement. And I'm like, those hit really hard. If this election is secure against foreign interference, like they say, they in brackets say it is, and they say vote counts can't be manipulated by a foreign country, that's not happening. Well, then, if we find evidence of fraud this election, it's on you. You can't scapegoat Iran. You can't scapegoat Russia. You've spent 6-8 years, whatever, telling us that they can't manipulate vote counts from across the pond. So I guess it was you guys who manipulated the vote counts with these fraudulent ballots.
So Executive Order 13848, it's I look at this in a couple of ways. It's about the narrative. Like they say in the executive order that while we have not seen the outcome or vote tabulation manipulated, through cyber means, but it's more about people undermining the confidence in, like that's in the title. And it's narrative stuff. It's propaganda. the most important thing that Executive Order 13848 did is it mandated those two reports, the initial report or assessment, and then the report from our intelligence agencies, one within 45 days of the election, and then one within 45 days of that. The first one they ever put out on that was after the 2016 election. Total bullshit, where they come out saying Russia tried to help Trump, all these things, Russia. This narrative they were trying to paint of Trump. Well, Trump's like, okay, well, you're going to do that. Now you're going to be doing that every year or every 2 years. After every election, you're going to have to put out a report like this and paint your story and tell the world what you say is happening. Actual manipulation of vote totals, actual hacking of machines and stuff like that, that's not going to be handled with an executive order. That's an act of war. Jay Johnson made election infrastructure critical infrastructure, and Nakasone told us that would raise the level to an act of war. Completely different ball game. Any of that's taken place, if it's taken place, which I believe it has at some point, boom, act of war. And at that moment, it's game over for them, because Trump's response can be pretty much anything as president. And I think he utilized those tools and responded as fit, and that's why he implemented devolution. You could nitpick and try to figure out when this happened, when that happened. Was it COVID? We really don't know for sure. But if I was a betting man, which I am, if any of you saw me in Deadwood, I'm definitely a gambler. I would put my money on some form of actual election manipulation. And Trump's draft executive order from December 16th of 2020 that we got from the J6 report told us that he believed it. Like he didn't sign it, but maybe he signed something else, right? These machines are vulnerable. We've seen it over and over again, and manipulating those is an act of war, and that's the trump card right there. So the 13848, like you're saying, Kyle, I think it is very much a narrative executive order. It almost allows them to continue to paint their narrative, because the intelligence agencies are continually looking at this stuff and putting out these reports and these status updates. Like 60 days from the election, Russia's still up to some bullshit, and the media runs with it. And that's what this whole thing is about. The actuals, we don't see any of that until we need to.
Yeah, I like that, and I think from the narrative perspective, we've been highlighting a lot on this show this year, the mainstream media seeding Russia and China, particularly when it comes to election infrastructure and energy infrastructure. They're doing it with the electric system. I don't know if we talked about this Sunday or not. Everything's blending together now, but a couple of months ago, we had predicted that we were going to see narratives come around right around September, October, of Russia moving its naval fleet, its nuclear submarine fleet, and the media was going to all say that this was some crazy thing they were doing, and now it's the undersea cables, even though it's literally called Project Ocean 2024, Operation Ocean 2024. Russia has not only notified the media of this, they have notified all world militaries, including the US military, of exactly where they're going, exactly when they're going there. So it's all narrative. And that's why I think this is why I have such a hard time sometimes lately distinguishing between what I think is sort of patriot ghost in the machine headlines and what is earnest deep state propaganda. But if I want to take it at face value and say that the Russia, China stuff is earnestly media industrial complex fear-mongering, it kind of feels like a trap with what both of you are just saying. Like it feels like taking Trump's public statements in there, taking the idea of devolution being implemented and active right now, the executive order here, and us being in a state of war. It sort of feels to me like a lot of this narrative seeding of Russia and China interference, it's Trump and company are letting them do it because it's them trying to create the narrative around what their actual cheating is, to Kyle's point. If the actual cheating, the vectors of actual cheating are coming domestically, or they could be routed through foreign governments or foreign sovereigns, just like we've talked about with Ukraine, etc. So it's the ironic thing in the InfoWars sometimes, where headlines about Russian interference, just as we've talked about 2016, can both be true, literally, and complete bullshit in terms of the story that's being told about them. Just like Ukrainians really could have blown up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline on the orders of the CIA and carrying out a CIA plan, right? So it'll be kind of ironic if Trump actually gets to use that executive order, because they do use foreign groups in order to attempt to influence the election.
Yeah. Love it. All right, you guys ready for some... Where's that article at? Where'd I put it?
I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm ready now.
I have to go to Kyle's Twitter to find it.
Politico ad?
I mean, I put it in the private chat here on StreamYard. Yeah.
Okay. I normally ignore both of you, so. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's not it.
What? This is a disaster.
Sorry, guys. Not easy running this entire thing behind the scenes here, okay? Bear with me.
Clicking the right link.
Just click Politico right there. Oh, yeah, you got it. All right. Yeah. You got it. All right. Yeah.
Just click Politico? You want me to click Politico?
Yep, you got it. Just click Politico. Good.
Okay, no, this is the article that came out. Looks like, was this? I mean, this was right before we went live.
Right before we went
45
live,
minutes. And this is pretty relevant to everything we talk about. So, Congress to get Super Bowl level protection on January 6, 2025. DHS designates the certification of the 2024 election a national special security event to prevent a repeat of the Capitol riot. Right off the bat, like, is that something that, do most people know how much security is involved in the Super Bowl? Like, is that a common knowledge type thing or what?
Yeah, I
think.
think. Yeah, I mean, I think people are pretty well aware that the Super Bowl is a high security event. Yeah,
I would say so, because it would be one of the more obvious things that if you were a real terrorist or Russian, you'd want to disrupt.
Sure. Okay. Well, the federal government has for the first time declared that the certification of the presidential vote next year will be treated as a national special security event, an acknowledgement that the once routine part of the democratic process now carries special risk. The designation by Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas places the January 6th session of Congress on the same security footing as major events such as the Super Bowl or UN General Assembly. It authorizes measures aimed at preventing a reprise of the riot at the Capitol by supporters of Donald Trump seeking to overturn the results of the 2020 election.
And actual terrorism, probably.
And this is actually making me think of something real quick. Let me read this paragraph, and then I want to find something. So one of you come up with something to say. National special security events are events of the highest national significance. Eric Ranahan, special agent in charge of the Secret Service's Dignitary Protective Division, said in a statement Wednesday announcing the designation, the U.S. Secret Service, in collaboration with our federal, state, and local partners, are committed to developing and implementing a comprehensive and integrated security plan to ensure the safety and security of this event and its participants. Okay, somebody say something.
This is pretty QE. Like, that was where my first, as soon as I saw it, that it said January 6th get Super Bowl level security. I was like, oh, you like the Q drop says that it's the Super Bowl is gonna make the Super Bowl look like a puppy bowl. And I don't know that actually is the hit here, but it is fun. It is.
I feel like we haven't seen. Yeah, I feel like that is one of those drops that, if it's purely metaphorical, sure, maybe we could map it onto some things, but it felt to a lot of us when it dropped that they were referring to something that would be unmissable about a specific Super Bowl, right? Not just like the Super Bowl. So we all were kind of the last few years looking for specific things at the Super Bowl.
Drop 2843 is the one. There's a few Super Bowl drops, but the one that stands out to me is that one, because that one says that the insurance policy that they had against Trump, that they had been covering up since Mueller, they were still covering up, and because they're afraid, and quote, the fun begins directly after, will make the Super Bowl look like a puppy show. Q. And so,
randomly, Tom Brady is commentating on the Super Bowl for the first time ever. So, he's the only public Trump supporter in the NFL to date.
Well, see,
the rest of them are pussies.
Most people that I've heard talk about the Super Bowl drops think it has to do with what a show it's going to be, like how many people watch, the competition maybe. But what if it actually is in reference to the security? It'll make the security at the Super Bowl look like the security you would have at a puppy show. Like the security at J6 is going to be so extreme. I had never thought about it that way, but
okay. Well, now I got something to play off this. I got to read 2 more paragraphs here, and then show you something. Okay. The announcement underscores a tense political environment with polls showing Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris in a close race and a bitterly divided electorate. The designation empowers the Secret Service to lead security planning and provide extensive resources to state and local authorities assisting with its implementation. It will mean unprecedented levels of security when Congress certifies the results of the presidential election. A couple weeks ago, we had this from Reuters. Pentagon approves additional support to Secret Service for election campaigns. Lloyd Austin has approved a request to provide Secret Service with additional military support capabilities for presidential and vice presidential candidates for the upcoming election. The Pentagon and the Secret Service said separately on Thursday. U.S. Northern Command, that's Ben Groek or whatever. I can never say his name right. We've talked about him just recently. Ben Groek, yep. And that's where Chris Miller went to look the guy in the eye and see his soul. That was Northern Command. They're going to be the ones providing support to Secret Service at various locations during the election. So now I wonder if we're actually going to see military in D.C. on January 6th through the Secret Service for security because of all this that's getting set up here. Because these are within 2 weeks of each other, these 2 stories.
Yep. They're definitely connected.
Yeah.
There's and the political article says that conversations are still ongoing. At the very bottom, it says they're still talking about other things they're going to implement and what the plans are. What stands out to me is that right there, Bowser asked for this.
Yep.
And Chad Wolf is mentioned there. He's a Devo guy, and he was asked about this when he testified to the J6 committee, which also recommended this. I don't think Chad Wolf was on board with this sort of situation. I'm not sure, though, because I haven't found what the comments were. 56. If you click that link, John, the Chad Wolf thing, if you click that told the panel and go to page 56, it has his quote.
Should I search threat driven?
If you go to page 56, you'll find it. It's right there. He mentioned Super Bowl, actually, which is also kind of cute. It's funny because it's QE. It's so QE. Shouldn't make too much of it, but it is fun.
So did it seem odd to you that for January 6th, which is an event not too dissimilar from January 20th, or say even the State of the Union, that DOD was the lead agency when usually your agency is lead agency? That's interesting. To my knowledge, January 6th had never, at least in the history of DHS, had ever been designated as an NSSE, National Security something event. I can't remember, even though we just read it.
Super secure event.
Yeah. So no, it did not seem odd that, and usually planning for an NSSE, such as an inauguration, such as the Super Bowl, is usually somewhere between 12 and 18 months in the making leading up to that NSSE. Obviously, a designation like that usually provides some additional reimbursement resources to local and state. But from my perspective, the coordination continues to be there, whether it's an NSSE or whether it's a lower event or not designated at all. I think the key here is making sure that law enforcement agencies there are coordinating and you understand who's doing what.
So he didn't say, yes, we should make it an NSSE. He's just saying there needs to be better coordination between the law enforcement agencies, right?
Yeah.
But J6 committee recommended it being an NSSE, and it sounds like that's what they've gone ahead and done.
Yeah, later on he says, we talked a little bit about the NSSE status as well. Do you think that would be helpful to have coordination of law enforcement agencies as is done successfully, for January 6th going forward? Yes. In theory, are threat driven because of the iconic nature. So there's a number of different categories. I think if you have professionals look at all the different categories that it would take to reach an NSSE level, and they believe it is, and they want to provide a recommendation, I think that's okay. I think they can do that. It was nothing that was talked about or discussed, not only from DHS, but again, a number of federal entities and other state and locals have input into that NSSE. It's not just something that the department does by itself. I think you could certainly take a look at that. And it gives reimbursement back to states. So if it's Super Bowl and it's in Miami, I'm making it up. If it's in Miami, the Miami Police Department is going to be heavily involved. Well, guess what? They get reimbursed. Okay, so it goes into funding. That's interesting. I actually
A lot of
haven't
people
read
gotta get off their Aaron Rodgers sympatitude.
So he said threat driven, as in things get elevated to the point that you decide based on conditions. It's an NSSE. This is an outright declaration, treated as an NSSE.
Yeah, he goes on to say here, so I would say, looking forward, January 6th, if there's enough threat information that requires it to maybe it doesn't rise to an NSSE, but maybe it's a SEAR. I don't know what that is. Other than like the store that closed down and went bankrupt across the country, Sears. But I think it should be threat driven versus just a blanket, for the next 20 years. It's just going to be this.
Yep. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Survival, evasion, resistance, and escape.
Never mind. I still like.
It doesn't spell seer. But.
No, I spelled a completely different thing. But.
More strongly than ever, I think that J6 is going to be an event where there is some unrest because Trump's going to get certified as the winner, and the left's going to go insane, and Dems are going to do all of this stuff, acting like they're shoring up defenses against a Trump threat when really it's their own side. So they've done all this stuff to try and secure against Trump stealing the election with fake slates of electors. And they've done all this stuff to try and secure it against Oath Keepers storming the Capitol. But it's going to be Kamala's people trying to steal the election with fake slates of electors. And it's going to be, or refusing to count them because they say Trump's an insurrectionist. And then there's going to be Antifa and leftists who are upset and unrest. And it's going to be, they're going to do all this stuff preparing for Trump supporters being unruly when it's going to be their own team.
Cujo said, I just found this as well. There's a couple different options, but special event assessment rating could be one.
That's probably it. Because he said special in here.
Yeah, special event assessment rating. Yeah. There's a few examples, but that's the one that maps most cleanly. But yeah, Kyle, that's exactly what I was thinking. The mirror theories, especially when you just think about all of the things, all of the narratives that Trump himself has made sure to really hammer into Normieville. And, I try to keep us out of that, us in this community who really microanalyze everything he does. What are the mainstream Trump statements he's been saying surrounding January 6th? He's been talking about, I offered the National Guard and they turned it down, right? Like that's a major national narrative about the National Guard. So when we put all of this together with special event assessment reports, etc., with January 6th, makes the Super Bowl security look like a puppy show. You take some of Trump's previous comments about January 6, 2021, and then you take what you just said about an inversion, and you've got Trump being declared the winner, and like whether that's on November 5th or 6th, or whether that's we do an audit and Trump is declared the winner, that could be the type of scenario in particular where there could be mandate for the machine to put out riots. If Trump just wins the election, like is declared the winner of the election because he gets more votes, I don't know if they're going to roll out riots against him. But what if Kamala is declared the winner, there's an audit, we find out Trump won, the others, they're going to dispute that. They're going to dispute it kinetically, most likely. So it would be interesting if a lot of what Trump has been doing in the last 4 years is not like just telling people I won the 2020 election. It's him saying, if anything like January 6th ever happens in the future, the first thing we should do is have overwhelming security and National Guard mobilized, which also happens to map onto the infamous Q drops about National Guard movement.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. 2020 being the pretext to have even more security when Trump drops his dick on the table over everybody here. You know.
Yep.
Maybe that wasn't the best.
He's been the one saying, "Hey, I offered this to all of them, and they turned it down, and look what happened." So shouldn't we have a really secure inauguration in 24?
Better really boost it this time, especially after an assation attempt.
Yeah.
And have the military partner with Secret Service.
Yep. I mean, yeah, he doesn't have. I mean, he's just about got the most public mandate you could possibly have for beefed security.
Yeah. So.
And they're gonna say he looks like Hitler and all the rest of it, and nobody fucking cares because they're pussies.
Anyway, that was fun. We got some rants to go through, so let's do that now. Jay Gonzalez 1123 says, "Our boy Blue giving the deep state a big middle finger, putting on that Trump 2024 hat. Hilarious. Even if he's on our side and doing this purposely, the narrative is spectacular. Good night." Yeah, it is. The guy just has no idea what he's doing ever, and I love it. I miss him already.
He did. I did watch a few other videos of that event, and he specifically requests the hat.
That's awesome.
Put on, by the way, it's not just something where somebody puts it on him. He asks if he can put the hat on.
Wedge Gravy says, "So I've heard about Haiti and all the missing children, but I haven't heard this about the Clintons in Haiti. Holy shit!" There's a Rumble link.
Tweet.
Voodoo mixtape. Probably not going to play that right now, but thank you. I'll put that on my list. S. Jones 39. I think Trump held back so as to not knock her out, keeping her on the ticket.
Yep.
Yeah. And keep in mind, Trump debated Biden early to get rid of him. So he wanted this to go the way it did. He knew it was going to go that way.
Yeah. Also on that note, I don't know if this probably happened between the last Power Hour. Vladimir Putin's quotes about Kamala Harris, besides being kind of funny, they were almost a direct translation of Donald Trump's statements about Kamala Harris. You know how we've played them a bunch where he said Joe Biden would be my first choice, but if I had to make a second choice, it would be Kamala Harris. And what did Vladimir Putin say? He said, Joe Biden was who we liked working with, but if we had to pick somebody else, it would be Kamala Harris.
That's funny.
He's telling you that they're all read in on this, in my opinion.
VKS says, "Kyle, you're spewing the adversary's narrative. You've handed the liars the win. Keep it to yourself."
Good job, Kyle. You lost us the election.
That was kind of rude.
I think I
have to say I totally and completely agree with this rant. So
wait, wasn't the enemy's narrative that Kamala won the debate?
I think you think Kamala won, man.
And what I said was that it was a wash and was basically meaningless, and anybody who tries to extract more meaning from it than that is like kind of off base because it
Con Inc.
That sounds like what our enemies would say.
Kyle, that's what we call him now.
Con Inc. Kyle, I like that.
Okay,
we need a t-shirt. Okay. Wedge Gravy, so much attention to Haiti on Telegram right now. Country is really effed up. Yeah,
I haven't seen. Well, I guess because they're eating cats and stuff, right? It was funny how they
the city manager said no, that's not happening. Didn't you hear that?
I mean, David, it is happening.
I know.
It's silly, but no, I know.
That's what David Muir said on TV. But then the Ohio State AG, I think, came out and was like, we have witnesses, like people call in testifying that people are doing this, and that's enough to win a court case. So I don't know what the news is talking about.
I just want moderators, anytime you get in an argument with your wife, they're just sitting at the kitchen island.
Fact checking.
They'll be like, excuse me, Mrs. Wright. Mrs. Wright, he did not actually say that. This is a lie that you're saying, right? Just move forward.
See, if you are your own fact checker, you don't need that. You can moderate your own arguments and then get divorced later. So that's how it goes. When Lynn 123, this 2016 compilation, Trump is funny. This Trump had the angry face like Biden. Why not recognize and learn how to improve? He didn't have the angry face in 2016. No, I think Trump presents himself as he wants to. If he would have been like the guy talking about, calling Kamala names, that's exactly what they wanted. He didn't do any of that. So we had 2024 Trump, President Trump, Devo Trump.
I also think part of his demeanor where he's actually kind of mad is related to that. Well, it's related to that post, the September 7th post. Where, you know, Patriots know where this story ends. And I do think sometimes he's like, are you fuckers actually going to make me go through all the way through with this?
Yeah. Like a week after they talk about Russia interfering in our election, you have ABC doing that bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, is what it is. VKS says, thank you, BB. Not sure what for, but
you're welcome. Whatever it is.
Dwayne, not Dwayne, says maybe close election is the motivator to get more people to actually vote.
I mean, yeah, but
maybe.
Just saying.
Ziggy Girl, according to Professor M. Reza Salami on X, JAG arrests treasonous judge Juan Merchan, reported on September 10th, 2024. The warrant was signed by Admiral Darce E. Is this true?
Take it to the bank. You saw it online.
No.
If you saw it on Twitter.
Kyle, it's literally on the internet.
It literally does not make sense. It doesn't make sense.
No, it does not appear to be true, Ziggy.
Yeah, I
probably
also
check
would
with a
agree
guy
with
who
that.
does streams with cowboy boots on, and I'll tell you.
He's probably at Gitmo right now. Juan Merchan at Gitmo. Already been executed. The guy we see is just in a mask.
Oh, she meant the clone. She meant the Juan Merchant clone.
Yeah. The other one's already dead. Now we're going to be on number 3. The next one we see is number 3. The Fallen Prince says, I just wanted to see Trump pull a Musk in that BBC interview where the reporter just didn't know what to do. Wanted to see a glitch in the matrix where there's no room to think who won, even TDS folks.
It wasn't really the same format. I mean, Musk was being interviewed by somebody, and he just shut her down. Trump's done that plenty of
Trump
times.
was being railroaded, so.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to see Trump tell everybody there to F off. That would have been cool. Red Pilled American 21 says DJT stock is trading under $17 after the debates. Current valuation of $3.3 billion, while Facebook is valued at $1.3 trillion, 394 times more. Look at DJT's verticals and consider Q drop 989 big tech devolution. That's way too complicated for me to buy into. But
yeah, who knows?
The stock, I believe, probably going to go down a little bit more, but we're getting close to that buying opportunity.
Yeah.
But that is not financial advice. Thomas Times 76, during the VP debate, if when Walz lies, Vance needs to say straight from the horse's mouth when he fact checks him. You know what? I forgot
That's
about.
pretty funny.
Yeah, that is funny. But I forgot that Walz and Vance are going to debate, and that's where you're going to get a lot of the facts. Vance is an excellent debater.
You're also going to get a whole lot of Meemaw anecdotes.
Yeah. When is that?
As my Meemaw once said, never
When's
fuck
that?
a horse.
When is that?
Oh man,
I don't know what that is.
You look that up. I'm going to keep reading. S. Morgan,
October 1st, I think. CBS October 1st is what I'm seeing.
Nice. That's also the spending deadline. So that can be interesting. S. Morgan, 1965. If Trump had demolished Kamala, we all expected she would be replaced. Maybe Big Don did not want her replaced. Even more interesting, why I never missed DPH. Love you guys. I mean, honestly, Trump had very little control over the actual debate. Like 2 moderators and the media coverage on both sides of it.
To your point, though, John, I mean, you'd said he could have done this in different ways. He could have handled this in different ways.
Yeah.
It is interesting, even when you look at 2020, how you've said quite a bit that he baited, leaving Patriot plans aside, game theory wise, he baited Joe Biden in, right? This feels, and I saw Zach saying something very similar on the post show last night. Feels to me like rope-a-dope. Feels a little bit like the. Because the media, the thing that I was the most interested in pre-debate was actually Wednesday morning. I was most interested to see what headlines the mainstream media put out, because obviously after Biden, they fully turned on him. They knew it was over, right? Even though we thought that Trump won that debate, or like Kyle said, at most it was a wash to normies, the media went whole hog on Kamala won and dominated. And that does kind of make you feel like the media took some bait there, took some Trump bait.
Yep.
They committed.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if Trump wanted to, Trump could have acted the way they portrayed him as acting and given him a bunch of clips, but he didn't really give him much. So
I want to mention something real quick because I was going to say this earlier, but we moved on and it's fine. But you just opened the door for me. I took notes during the first half of the debate. I was taking notes and I was writing down first question, this, okay, here's how the responses went back and forth. And I noticed the first question, I missed typing it down. I don't know what it was, and I didn't go back and correct it because I figured that most Americans missed it too, because Kamala launched in with a scatterbrained, nervous, shotgun pattern response, and you don't know what was by the time she was like 3 sentences in, it was like, what was the question she's answering here? Because she just told me part of her life story and like 2 policy positions and told me about Trump. So like it was really shotgun patterned. And she continued with that the first like 10 minutes. But I noticed that media led, that question led to Project 2025, by the way, that first question. But then the second question of the night was about tariffs. The third question was about abortion. And the fourth one was about the border. And they'd already touched on the border before then with some other stuff. And then by the time they got done talking about the border, they went to Trump and were like, Trump, do you want to talk about the weaponization of the justice, what you mean by that? And Kamala, you want to talk? Like, I'm bringing that up because I couldn't help but notice they brought up Trump's favorite topics.
Yeah.
They brought up all the topics on which Trump has the most favorable numbers, where his policy is the most popular, his positions are the best, he's the most passionate about these issues. Minus the Project 2025 thing from the very first one, which I don't even know if they mentioned that in the question. I think Kamala brought it up, and they just went there.
The first question was, are you better off 4 years ago than you are today, like economy-wise? I'm pretty sure.
No wonder she gave a shotgun answer, because she can't deal with that question directly, so she had to meander, right? So, and that just backs up my point. Those first 5 main questions were all in Trump's wheelhouse, his best ones. And so I think the media, in their arrogance, their ego, they thought, let's go here and get him mad about this stuff because they view him as being mad about those things, which he is, but he's channeling the frustrations of the American people. So when he gets mad about those things, he connects with the American people. But the media, they don't get mad about that stuff. It's a feature, not a bug. They look at the border and they're like, this is the way it's supposed to be. They're happy about it. So when they see Trump getting mad about these issues, they're like, look at him getting mad. Let's try and turn this into him being an authoritarian or a fascist. And they tried to trap him like that, just like Gordon was talking about. But the mistake there is that the American people perceive Trump being mad about the border in a completely different way than what the media perceives it. The American people relate to it and connect with it because they're upset too. And the media can't get that. It's a complete disconnect in their worldviews and in their principles and their value sets. And in their viewpoint of where they want their vision for the country. It's a complete disconnect. So that's something that stood out to me, is that if you were really being smart, like the media, I know that they're rigged against Trump, obviously, but if they were really smart about it, they would have crafted those first 30 minutes of questions in a way that didn't open up Trump to being able to present his strongest positions, the positions on which the American people most connect with which are the economy, the border, abortion, because he's done big wins on abortion, and tariffs, because that's the economy, that's union stuff, that's all sorts of industry. Anyway, big error on their part. And I think it all comes from their conflict of visions, their disconnect, and their arrogance.
I also say too, when I started at the beginning of the show, when I made the Weinmong comment, it's like partially a joke, but to that point, Kyle, I think that the dual screen showing Kamala, doing this and sneering at him, like that, to your point, that is how a ton of the American people feel about what the establishment thinks of them, right?
Yes.
So they asked Trump about these like normal things to ask about, the economy, the border, etc. And he's like, we have a disaster right now, when their own polling says that they agree it's a disaster. and then you've got Kamala Harris sneering at him. So I think to your point that it's like the way they're seeing the situation. It reminds me, there's a rom-com, 500 Days of Summer, that's really well directed. And there's a scene where they show you what the guy thinks is going on in a love, like in a party scene, like how he thinks he's coming off. And then it shows you how he's actually coming off. And they're almost the same scene, side by side. But there's tiny little subtle differences about like how guests at the party are reacting to his jokes. Mm-hmm. And it shows you his perception of himself is totally divorced from how people are receiving him. And I think that there was some of that going on here, where they're like, this guy cares about the economy. Like, what a doofus, man. And I don't think it landed that way.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
But we'll wait to see what Tim Pool says about it, to be sure.
Wedge Gravy says Haiti's a shithole country. Wedge Gravy's having a really tough time with Haiti right now. So,
where did Haiti touch you on the voodoo doll?
Best of luck. Wedge Gravy. Faith and Freedom says, FYI, several posts in chat wouldn't post because I had the name Jim Caviezel spelled out in it, star of Sound of Freedom. Then I tried just his name, no spaces, wouldn't post. WTF Rumble.
Well, I don't know, but I will tell you that when that movie was out, we got bots every single show pushing Sound of Freedom. So I bet
Jim
Rumble,
Caviezel, it's probably banned.
Yeah. Caviezel is a bot himself, so I think that's what's going on.
Not surprised. 42 says DPH, keep it real and keeping me grounded. Your viewpoints make more sense than anything else, especially the border chat you just had. Thank you all for your service to humanity. Thank you. 1027JS, 12,460 viewers, only 2.69 thousand thumbs up so far. You guys are not very good listeners, apparently, because I told you all, if we have 12,000 viewers, we should have 12,000 thumbs up, according to my speech at the beginning, my moving speech. So get on it, guys. Do see Club. Just Human just wrapped up a barbecue with some buds. We'll replay show from start tomorrow.
Did he? Oh,
he's
okay? Frozen.
He froze?
He froze with like a very discerning. Now you're back.
Am I frozen still?
Okay, now you're good.
You're back now. But you froze in like a moment where you would be really still anyways.
Yeah.
So it was tough.
Like you were staring at like a calculus problem.
That was weird because my computer hasn't done that since I got my internet fixed. So that was dumb. You mentioned Jim Caviezel one time and the whole thing explodes.
Anyway.
Did you guys?
You didn't finish the second half of Do Club's rant on our timeline. You did.
Okay, he smoked La Glorious Series 7. Very nice.
Yeah.
Hope you like the Fat Bottom Betty I gave you at Gar 2. And I'm hoping that's a cigar, not a...
It is. Those cigars are pretty
sexual
good. I did. Okay. Yeah. Fat Bottom Betty. Those are good cigars. A Gloria Cubana Siri R Maduro number 7 is probably my favorite cigar out there right now. It's so good. And my wife got me some on discount, which was awesome. And I went back to try and buy more, and they were all gone. I was very sad. So
I will say in Deadwood, I went to a little cigar lounge saloon place, Chris and a few people. And as we were walking in, Chris was talking about Maduro in Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
And then we didn't know a lot about cigars. And the guy was like, "You seem like a Maduro kind of guy," to Chris, and gave him a Maduro cigar. So,
and was he
is he a Maduro guy?
I don't know. I mean, he seemed to enjoy himself. So,
oh, good.
Okay, well, that's good.
I want a cigar.
Woohoo 288. Thanks for the most intellectual geopolitical conversation I found. How can I get a transcript of your shows?
Write it down, every single word we say.
Yeah, get a pencil, man. No. Rumble does not have the transcript feature like YouTube does as of yet. We do have a couple episodes. Like this is going to be on YouTube on our Clips channel until that's taken down, but we don't really talk about that channel.
Some of the podcast players generate transcripts.
But yeah, all of our shows are uploaded to podcast. For those who don't know, we've been doing that for a while, so you can get it there. Or there's like an app you can get where you can like upload the Rumble thing and it can create you a transcript.
Yes, that's right. There is. I've used it before.
Yeah, I would
What's
too.
it called?
Jordan Sather knows what it is too. He did a few for me. Melindy says, my fave reveal that normies have probably never heard from last night. The VP was sent to negotiate peace, and 3 days later, a war started. Yeah, that's pretty funny. As they're hammering Kamala on, or as Kamala and them are hammering Trump as like not being a serious geopolitical leader, they reveal that. Pretty funny.
Well, it was normie Internetville, but it was funny that the Willie Brown Kamala clip was going very viral yesterday.
Yeah, that was pretty good. QFan Addict, very strange. Nobody saw what I did. Kamala's facial expressions were her death nail. Even if viewers weren't overtly aware, leer, sneer, flared nostrils, contrived smiles, nonstop were offensive. And
So
then
I meant death knell, but yeah, that's actually a real thing. Like it comes from canines and stuff, and you'll see it in apes. Though her facial expression sounds stupid, but if there is such a thing as an undecided voter, her expressions are all very off-putting to human beings.
Yes.
Which is
you
why
should be off-putting.
Yeah. Which is why we talked about long before she was a fake presidential candidate. We've mentioned on this show many times that she is very literally the worst polling American politician in the 2000s. A lot of that, according to body language experts, etc., is because she comes off as extremely condescending, arrogant, and untrustworthy. Not just to MAGA people, but to people. If you're talking and the third person in the conversation is sneering at you while you're doing it, you're not going to trust that person. And that's how the American people feel about that. Where anytime Kamala was talking, Trump will occasionally be like, that doesn't make any sense, right? But most of the time he's just looking at her, looking at the moderators, looking back, and she's making all these weird facial expressions.
If you really want to get a sense for what BB's talking about, find the debate on YouTube, watch it on mute. Like just scroll through it on mute and just look at her expressions.
Yeah, which person
Trump's.
do you trust more?
Yeah,
and I think I saw Tweeter Trash on Twitter posted a few like sped up clips of the debate on mute, and it really proves that point. So, and then QFan Addict again says, today Richard Barris acquired immediate debate feedback, actual, and was smitten. Female lives, once diehard never Trumpers, switched to Trump, finding Kabbalah, which like normies now see Trump as a victim. I like that. The Abe Theory _21 says, John, do you think the threat level on J6 2025 will be midnight? That's an Office quote. Have you guys watched the Office?
Like the nuclear clock or whatever it is.
There's a movie that Michael Scott makes in the series, and it's called Threat Level Midnight, and it's pretty funny. Anyway. Call sign Cujo. If you know, you know. LOL. Thank you guys. Nice to see you, Cujo. And then
special event assessment rating stuff.
Yep. So you guys got the name right. Root Hog. The DC NFL team is now the Commanders. Imagine if the Super Bowl is them versus Chiefs. Goodell hinted at President Day weekend, Super Bowl days after the theft. 21 was Bucks versus Chiefs. Also might be Bills. Trump tried to buy them. I do not see the Commanders making the Super Bowl.
A lot of plausible deniability you gave yourself in that. I mean, imagine if it's this or this or this or this other matchup. Okay.
Starting to sound like Burning Bright.
One of those, yeah.
Red Pill American 21. Prediction, Red 6. Secret Service takedown is Inauguration Day. No matter who wins, Biden admin there. Trust the military. Think drops and EOs. Worldwide viewership. Super Bowl is bigger than a puppy show. And Saltmuncher ODA, Hannity asked why he looks so mad. Trump responded by saying, they are destroying our country. We literally are in the fight to save our country. It's a serious issue, and I'm mad about it.
Yeah, which is a perfect response.
Great answer.
Yep.
It's not a fucking joke.
50 Chick says, and this is the final rant, I loved it when he said, go wake up Biden and go to the White House and sign an order and close the border, that they didn't need Congress to do it, and she had no comment and a wrinkly neck and a weird knot. Some poor punctuation, but
she
it's a good point.
She is a varied looking person.
Yep. He also hammered like, who's running our country now? Who's our president? We don't have a president.
Yeah.
But that was cool. But all right, guys.
The next day, Joe Biden put on a MAGA hat. At his own request.
I'm gonna see if I can find the Kamala Willie Brown so people can see the video we're talking about. yeah, that's everything, guys. So hit that thumbs up. Make sure you go watch our documentary. It's now on Rumble. It's pinned to the top of our profile. And yeah, anything else?
I'm Crooked Halo Angel just came in and said Kyle must be in ketosis. I know the feeling. Ketosis makes your thoughts, memories, and random info connect in a vibrant way. It's like Neo seeing the Matrix. It's awesome.
I do feel pretty good, and I am in ketosis. It's pretty nice. I'm hoping not to fuck it up tomorrow when I go on a lunch date with my wife, because all the places she's listed she wants to go, nothing there is keto friendly. There's like
sabotage.
Like I'm gonna go in there and be like, can you just make me 2 eggs and like put some feta cheese on the side, and like nothing else. Like, do you have some spinach? Can you put it on a bed of spinach? That's it.
And by the way, guys, I forgot to tell you, here in 15 minutes, we got the debut episode of Where We Go One, We Go All After Dark. New show on Badlands, starting at midnight on Wednesdays. And it's going to be a surprise who's hosting it. I'm not going to tell. Well, I guess Brad's logo's on there. So Brad's doing it.
Brad, it was Brad the whole time. We just can't lie about it anymore.
My last thought on this is that debate made clear to me, or what it has set in my mind, is that Kamala's game, like we talk about infinite game, finite game. Kamala's game is finite, and it's sudden death. She's playing sudden death. That's the game.
I wrote
she's
an article
in right
about
now.
that today, Kyle. Were you trying to boost me?
Totally did not mean to boost you. But Trump's game is infinite, and Trump can play off circumstances. He just has to keep playing games, like period, any kind of game. Just keep playing games. There's really no threat to him. But for Kamala and the deep state, it's sudden death. It's sudden death for her candidacy. And then when Trump wins and is inaugurated, it's sudden death for deep state players who have wronged Trump, and he has the evidence to indict them.
Yep.
Sounds like something the enemy would say. Kyle, stop.
I know. I'll quit. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get a job at Politico.
That's
sorry.
the ketosis talking.
All right, guys. Have a good night. We'll close on this video. See you next time.
He's a rogue, all right, notorious for his flamboyant lifestyle. Flashy clothes, fancy parties, fine women, and fast cars.
You should from now on address me as the mayor.
If ever a man and a municipality were made for each other, it is this man, this place. He's a rogue.